Protecting our children is one of the most important duties of public service. When families send their kids to school, or let them play outside, or allow them to go online, they should be confident that the kids are safe. But today, too many parents have a sinking feeling every time their kid logs onto a phone, tablet, or video game console. They know that the internet has become a dangerous opportunity for predators looking to exploit the young and vulnerable. This is not a problem of the future, it is the crisis now, and Congress must act now. In 2014, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, known as NCMEC, received approximately 1.1 million cyber tips about child sexual abuse material known as CSAM. That was in 2014. 1.1 million received tips. By 2023, less than 10 years later, the number of cyber tips had exploded from 1.1 million to 36.2 million. Over 36 million reports in a single year. Each one of these reports represents a child being harmed, exploited, or degraded. It is sickening and shows the sheer magnitude of the crisis. As I have learned more about the horrors of online child sexual exploitation, I've made it my mission in the Senate Judiciary Committee to do something about it. I'll never forget the heartbreaking testimony of witnesses, parents who came and told the story of what happened to their sons and daughters as a result of exploitation on the internet. I want to thank Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri, for being the Republican lead on this bill, and my colleagues in the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democrats and Republicans alike, who voted unanimously to advance the bill out of committee earlier this year. Let me pause for a moment and make sure you caught that word. Unanimously, every member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Democrat and Republican alike, voted for this legislation to move forward. Senator Hawley, who was in the minority at the time, voted for it. Now he's in the majority. He's the lead sponsor of my bill, which is entirely appropriate, and it's a bipartisan effort. We heard the frustration of my colleague from Hawaii about the lack of bipartisanship in the Senate. This is a notable exception. I want to recognize the extraordinary survivors and advocates who fought to make this legislation possible. Your heartbreaking stories, your testimony have made the difference. The Stop CSAM Act takes a comprehensive approach to stemming the tide of online child exploitation. Most significantly, it establishes accountability by piercing the broad immunity granted to big tech by something known as Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. The average American would flunk this quiz if you asked them what Section 230 is. The advocates who come to us to support the Stop CSAM Act know exactly what it is. It lets social media off the hook for their wrongdoing. For too long, courts have read Section 230 so broadly that it has allowed companies hosting, promoting, even profiting from CSAM to be shielded from any responsibility or accountability. That's right, they can do the wrong thing and never pay a price because of Section 230. The Stop CSAM Act changes it. It opens the courthouse doors to survivors and families. I can think of no other single thing that we could do which would be more effective. If these social media platforms can ignore parents and ignore the exploited young people and go about their business, they'll have a second thought on the subject if they face the possibility of going to court. It would allow victims to sue tech platforms and app stores that promote or aid or abet online child sexual exploitation, or that host, store, or make CSAM available. It puts teeth in the law. In addition to accountability, Stop CSAM forces transparency on big tech. For years, big tech has operated in secrecy, telling parents, policymakers, and even their own users just to trust us. But as whistleblowers and lawsuits have shown, that trust is misplaced. The Stop CSAM Act requires the largest technology companies to submit annual reports describing their efforts to combat child sexual exploitation on their platforms. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. We've all seen the headlines. Meta's own internal research showed harm to children on Instagram and in virtual reality play spaces. AI platforms like ChatGPT, Character AI, and OpenAI are facing lawsuits for failing to prevent harmful, even deadly conversations with minors. Mr. President, this is a serious matter. The new school year has started. In some states and many school districts, they've drawn the line and told the kids, you don't bring your phones to school. You're going to be students here, you're going to talk to one another instead of texting, and you're going to look at the teacher and the board and what's before you, as opposed to your phone night in and night out. The Stop CSAM Act also includes critical protections for survivors of child sexual exploitation. The bill bolsters privacy protections for certain child victims and witnesses in federal court and gives judges the tool to enforce these protections. Altogether, these reforms hold tech companies accountable, bring transparency to their practices, strengthen law enforcement tools, and put survivors and their families at the center of our bipartisan response. The Senate Judiciary Committee has worked together on this matter, unanimously, Democrats and Republicans, to advance meaningful child safety legislation. As I said earlier, the Stop CSAM Act passed unanimously out of committee. That unanimity is no accident. It reflects a shared understanding when it comes to protecting our kids. Partisanship has no place. We've shown that Democrats and Republicans can work together to write, strengthen, and advance legislation that takes on big tech and prioritizes children's safety. To my colleagues who have not yet signed on to the bill, welcome aboard. We need you. Join us. Become a sponsor of the Stop CSAM Act. There are advocates from all over the United States who are on Capitol Hill today, knocking on the doors of Senate offices, asking colleagues to take a moment, consider co-sponsoring this bill. I salute them. That is what democracy is all about, and that's what protecting our kids is all about. The Judiciary Committee has done its job. The families in our state are watching. Survivors are waiting. Advocates are working day and night to protect kids at home and worldwide. It's time for the Senate to act. Mr. President, during the course of my career in the House and the Senate, I have taken on some issues that have dealt with the security and safety of children. Years and years ago, I took on tobacco usage by kids. When I took on that particular crusade, about 25% of the kids in grade school across America were using tobacco products, cigarettes and chewing tobacco and that sort of thing. 25%. Today, that figure is below 5%. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of people stepping forward and saying, you can do what you want when it comes to adults, but for God's sake, protect our kids. Isn't that what this is all about too? Protecting our kids from the most insidious, destructive, and threatening element when it comes to their future and their safety. I encourage my colleagues, join us in this bipartisan effort. This is something we all should agree on, and I yield the floor.